Yandrovinaka. Yandrovinaka. It's a beautiful morning here in Suva. Looks like it might rain, but I thought I'd do a quick video. I'm not all dressed up and ready for meetings this morning. I've just come back from town with my son. And normally, if it's in the morning, if we're going to the market on a Saturday, you'll find me in shorts and a t-shirt and a cap and no makeup, sometimes even no bath trip to the market, right? And today I've got my son's, I don't know who bought this t-shirt for my son. Someone bought him this t-shirt, but it can't fit him. He's growing way too fast. But anyway, today I wanted to share something that I came across yesterday before I go inside and get busy with other things. Manly and I had come into town early yesterday, and we thought we'd have breakfast because we had some stuff to do. We had to go back to our beautiful friend Crystal in FMPF to finish off some stuff. And we parked opposite the car park near Westpac, the one near YMCA, just in the middle of town. And as we had finished and we were coming back to drive over to FMPF, I could see in my review mirror there was a young boy approaching. First of all, before that young boy approaching, have any of you noticed just how many more young kids we have on the streets? Like I came across, I saw one younger Indo-Fijian looking boy the other week, and I thought, oh, I haven't seen him before. And a number of times, like I come through the back of Westpac because there's a number of sex workers there that I've come to know. And of course, if Bui and I are together, Bui from the Safe House, she knows everyone there. She also knows who's new, which is really interesting because last time we went, there were some younger new girls. And so she has a chat to them, see where they're from. But these street kids, the boys, I'm talking about boys now in particular. Okay, sex workers on the one side, we'll talk about them a bit later, but these young boys, and I keep on noticing younger ones coming up to cars and new faces. And so anyway, we passed some on the way back we were walking along ANZ around that area. And then when I came, I saw this boy in the review mirror, and he looked small, like he looked like 10 or 11. I actually didn't have any cash on me, but my daughter Melania did. I just stopped, I put my window down, and so while she was digging around in her purse, I had a conversation with him. And I tend to do that, if it's those I meet for the first time, I tend to just ask some questions. A lot of the time they get surprised because they just probably like, can you just stop talking to us, woman, and just give us the money and bugger off? Well, no, since you are waiting for me, you will answer my questions. So I asked him, I said good morning, and the first thing that struck me about him, he was so different. Like you find like those who have been on the streets for a while, they have this inner confidence about them, and they're a little cocky sometimes. This boy, I looked into his eyes and he just looked sad, and I was like, man, I at that moment I was thinking, I just want to take this boy, tell him to get in the car and come home with us. And I looked at him and I asked his name, and then I asked him where he's from. I said, Rewa. And then I asked him, so he said he was from Rewa, and where his parents were. And he said his parents had divorced and living separately. And I just thought, man, here we go again. I said in one of my last videos, with all the conversations, the stories that I've heard in the sex workers community, from different people during my campaigning, walking around the bus stand, the market, the Yatula arcade, it all starts from the home. It's either the abuse came through there, or there was broken families, or there's like a single mom who had multiple children from different men. But that instability is the root of why we see a lot of these. And even then, there are some that did not separate, but like I said, abuse. So there's a very toxic environment in the home that caused this. So Menya gave his money, and I asked him how old he was. He said he was 14. 14. He is half my son's size. I mean, yes, granted, my son is big, like my son is 13, but he is like, he could be mistaken for an 11-year-old. And then I asked him where he slept, and he pointed out the area where he slept, which was close to where we were parked. And I just thought, this 14-year-old man, is he going to school? No, he's not going to school. Of course not. Like, yes, school fees are free, but you just don't, if you don't have uniforms, you don't have shoes, you don't have bus fare, you don't have any parent, you don't have books or pens, or like, you're not going to go to school. And I just thought, this one young boy represents so many others. There are hundreds, I would say easily hundreds of young boys that are around, but are not being loved and nurtured at that age. These are our young men in our society. These are the ones that are going to go on and become fathers and husbands. And I just couldn't help thinking, when we drove away, and I said, just spoke a blessing over this boy's life. I drove away and like my heart was just so heavy. And I said to Melania, like, when I spoke a blessing over him, he said, thank you. But how many people have done that? And like, he must be thinking, okay, yeah, thank you. And thanks for the money. And, like, it's okay for her to speak blessing, say that because she's in her air-conditioned car and going to her comfortable home. Maybe that's how he thinks. But like, there must be something else we can do. And so Melania and I had a bit of a chat about this, because she is getting involved now with the juvenile ministry. That's the not-for-profit I was talking about earlier. And they work primarily with boys. So they work in the juvenile center, but of course this is the pre, right? Because I said to her, this is exactly the type of person, like, God forbid it's him, but like ends up there. And then I was thinking, it might even be like so much safer, and he gets a bed to sleep on and he gets food for him to go in there. But I guess just not his freedom. It's an interesting one to think of. Like, yes, we talk, like, a lot of people are feeding the guys in the streets, and is that really the help we need? I mean, yes, they need to be fed, but I just feel like there's more that we need to do in the preventative. What does that look like? I don't know. I really don't know. But I'm thankful to have had that experience. I'm the kind that, like, when I have an experience like that, it'll sit with me, and I'll pray into it. God always allows me to retain things that I believe are important. But it is a sad situation, and it makes it even more sadder that I don't feel like we are doing what's needed, because this is another thing with development that I'm learning through my course too, like now making the connection with the work in the community and the macro level at national level. Like, when we're talking about economic growth and development, we're talking about GDP, we're talking about GNIs and all of these economic metrics. But how can we say we're developed when we have more kids on the streets, when there are more rapes? And then maybe people will come back and say, well, those are indicators of a developed society, because they have access to more things, access to more information, access to drugs, access to, like, I rebuke that. Like, how can economic indicators be progressing and people going in the other direction? Isn't it the people that make up the country? Isn't that the heart of the country? Isn't that what we should be worried about? The reality is the majority of us in Fiji are not doing okay, and it's not okay for us to just walk by it. So to end, again, man, this video is really long, so it's just almost like there's so many thoughts going on in my head about this at the moment, and I believe it will amount to something useful. But I wanted to really challenge us to think about this. Yes, there's a lot more street kids, but there's also a lot more people who are working in the city that walk past them. Like, I would say that street kids, like maybe, for example, 20. And then you have like thousands of working people that are walking past them that are so used to seeing them. I wanted to suggest, for those of you who don't, I know some of you might be doing this already, like have a conversation with them. Ask them where they're from. You know, what got them there? Do they want to go back to school? And these are little questions, you know, but to place value on one of, you know, a human being, it carries so much weight, you know, just to let them know that they are seen. And if you are a follower of Christ, you have a responsibility to do it. You really do. You know, God sees them, and he doesn't only look at those that are living in homes. We know that. He has these street kids, these sex workers on his heart as well. And we are here, and we are meant to be his hands and his feet. And so don't think about what you don't have. Like, don't think about you need to get to a place of generosity to give. Again, if you're a follower of Christ, you really need to lean into him for guidance here. But I know for a fact, like there's 2 Timothy. I was just reading last week. There's a verse in Timothy. I think it's Timothy, or is it John? 1 John. Anyway, I'll dig it up and put it up on my story. But it was talking about how us as followers of Christ who have things, and we walk past those who don't have, and we don't feel a flinch, like we don't give, then that's a reflection of our love for Christ. Not our love for them, but our love for Christ. And how can we call ourselves followers of Christ? So anyway, that's a Saturday morning little story for you. Something to think about. Something to think about. You might have a group of friends that might be willing to get behind some of them. You might say, okay, you know what? We met this boy. He's 13 years old. We're willing to get behind him and get him to school. What can we do? Give $50 each a payday. You know, maybe there's a dorm room he can use. There's lots of things. Talk to me if you're feeling like that, because the thing too, when we assist those in these situations, it's not just financial. There's been a lot of trauma already. There's psychological help that's needed. There's all sorts of help. So I'm happy to have a chat with any of you who might be interested, or getting a group of people together, and we just help each other. You know, that's our community. That's what we are like. Okay, that is our way. And it's just beyond me how we've come so far from who we are. You know, like this, our country is not supposed to be like this. Definitely not, especially when our culture is, you know, promotes something so opposite. And yet we see that, and we've come immune, and we're working in offices, and so our thinking is so westernized, our behaviors have become westernized, you know. So we can do something about it. We can. It's not too late. We can all do a little bit with where we're at. Like I always tell, and I say this to myself often, don't get overwhelmed by everything you see around you. You know, let God just point you to one direction, to one person. Start from there, one by one by one. You transform one person, you love on one person, that person will go and do it to another person. That's what happens when people are set free. They will want to go and set other people free. So anyway, thank you for listening. Thank you for all taking time to listen. What are we doing today? I've just got something to finish at 11. And my daughter hung the washing. I did the washing before I went out this morning. She's hung it. Gideon and I are going to be in the garden today and washing cars. So let's hope that the good weather stays. Other than that, thank you again for listening. Please let me know what you think. Let's keep these conversations going. Allow yourself to sit and think about it. God, most of you just have so many gifts that God will use in these situations, and we can work together. This doesn't have to be you alone or me alone. Other than that, have a great Saturday and enjoy your weekend. Pinakpakaliw.